Hi, this is Zach with HVACdirect.com. I'm a former service technician, but now I work here, and my goal is to help you, the homeowner, save money. Speaking of saving money, that's actually the topic of today's video. We're going to talk about how can you save money with your air conditioning system. When we talk about cost savings, there's really two routes we can go. One is the system itself, and the other is the structure that you put the system in. When it comes to the structure, one thing that will always help is having better insulation. When we talk about homes, we could talk about the home being tightly insulated. You can do simple things like spray foaming the walls, which, while not cheap, can help seal the home up. Other things like going from older single pane windows to the new triple pane windows will certainly help as well. Our specialty, which is HVAC equipment, there are a lot of different options you have to help save money. One important thing to know when looking to buy HVAC equipment is what is the SEER rating? What does it even mean? The SEER rating stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. But the real thing you need to know is the higher the number, the more efficient the system. Systems nowadays start at the minimum of 13 or 14, depending on your location, and can go as high as 30 SEER, even higher on some mini-split systems. But the main thing to understand is the higher that number, the more efficient the system. Now, when it comes to the SEER rating, you do have to look at the big picture. If you're only buying an air conditioner and pairing it with an existing furnace, that may lower the SEER rating that you're going to get. What we would recommend, especially if you only have to replace one, is thinking about replacing the whole system. Then you would have what we call an AHRI rated system. That means that a third party, an independent third party, has verified that that system is as efficient as the manufacturer says. When looking at HVAC equipment, the common SEERs that you will see will be, as we already mentioned, 13 SEER and 14 SEER. Those are on the lower ends. The next common jump goes up to 16 SEER, and then you'll get into some of the higher SEERs for split systems. You're looking at things like 17, 18, or 20. Now, when we talk about mini splits, that's where you can really start to get high SEER ratings. Before I mentioned that 30 SEER, that's pretty hard to accomplish with a standard split system, but with mini splits, that's definitely achievable, and that's one reason they've gotten so popular. Now, aside from the SEER rating, another thing that will help you save money is how many stages your air conditioner has. There's really three options. You can have a single stage system, a two-stage system, or a variable speed system. A single stage system is just what it sounds like. It's either off or at 100% capacity. While this is good and it does work, it's kind of like going 0 to 60 in your car everywhere you go. Not the most efficient thing to do. What we would recommend at a minimum is getting a two-stage system. Two-stage systems can operate at 100% capacity or 66% capacity, roughly depending on the manufacturer. What this lets your system do is when it first turns on, it won't run at its hardest. It'll run at that 66% capacity. Just like, if I were to ask you to sprint everywhere you go, you'd get tired pretty quickly. It'd be nice to be able to walk every once in a while. And that's what a two-stage system lets you do. If we're going to dig a little deeper into it, the two-stage system also will match the load better for your house. Whenever we size air conditioning systems, your contractor should do what's called a manual J, or a load calculation. They'll figure out exactly how many BTUs you need to remove an hour. The only problem is when they do this sizing, they do it for the hottest day, on average, that you're expected for your area. So whenever your system is turning on and running, but maybe it's only 75 degrees outside, you don't need that 100% capacity. You'd be able to cool with a slightly smaller system. If you have a single stage system, though, you're out of luck. You still have to run at that full capacity. With a two-stage system, you are able to run at that lower capacity, which saves you money and will actually increase the runtime. Now, that is one thing that a lot of times homeowners would get confused on. They'd say, wait a minute, longer runtime, why do I want that? That sounds bad. It doesn't sound like I'm going to save money. I would always use the example of driving in a car. The hardest thing for your car, on your gas mileage, or any motor is stopping and starting. If you think about it, that's why they have two ratings for your miles per gallon. On the highway, when you can go and just cruise, it's much easier on your motor and you save money. The same thing is true for your HVAC equipment. We actually want to increase that runtime as long as we're running at the lower capacity, and that way we're not stopping and starting, which is harder on your motor and costs you more money. Without getting too in-depth, your electric company will charge you in kilowatts per hour. How do we actually figure out where these kilowatts come from? Well, it's actually a really simple equation. It's your voltage times your amperage will equal your wattage. Kilowatts is just 1,000 watts. Now, the voltage of your system you can't change. The manufacturer is going to decide what voltage you need to run at. But the amperage you can. And if you have a two-stage system, it'll use less amps in that first stage. So that means less power consumed, and that means you save money. Now, even better than a two-stage system is what we call a variable speed system. You may hear some people call it a modulating system or an inverter drive system, but these all just mean relatively the same thing. This is another reason, by the way, that mini splits are very popular, is every mini split manufacturer out there is using what they call the inverter technology, which simply means it has a variable speed compressor outside. You can also find this in split systems. This system actually ramps up and ramps down. It's even better than having two stages. Certain brands can start as low as 33% capacity and go all the way up to 100% capacity, taking individual steps along the way. This means you could be at 33, 34, 35, 36%. I'm sure you get the idea. This gives you many systems in one and lets you match the load even better, which of course means you save more money. So, hopefully now it makes a little bit of sense of why we want that longer run time. When you have systems that have two stages, or even multiple stages, they want to run as long as possible, as low as possible. It's kind of like walking. Walking is easier on your knees, you can do it for much longer. And that's the goal with your HVAC system. Now, another thing we can talk about when saving money with your HVAC system, and it's another one that homeowners sometimes are a little bit confused by, is not changing the set point drastically when you leave your house for the day. A lot of times when I was in the field, homeowners would tell me, hey, when I leave, I'm saving a lot of money, I'm bumping up my thermostat to 80 degrees, and then I come home and I bump it right back down to 70. In theory, they're thinking, hey, I'm saving money, my system's not running while I'm gone. Which, of course, there is a little bit of truth to that. If the system's not running, it's not consuming power. But we have to keep in mind, if we have those two-stage systems or those variable speed systems, they don't always start at the lowest stage. If that thermostat sees a big demand for cooling, if you go from 80 degrees to 70 degrees, it's going to ramp up very quickly. It's not going to run in those low stages. It's going to say, oh no, we need to cool the house right now. I better work as hard as possible. And that kind of defeats the purpose. You spent extra money to get a more efficient system, a higher SEER system with more stages, and then depending on how you use your thermostat, it may function very similarly to a single stage system. And if you are, set on doing that, I would recommend just purchasing a single stage system at that point. Another thing that does happen when you turn your system off for the day and you're gone and it's not running is the humidity can build up in your house. You may not know this, but your air conditioner removes two types of heat, sensible heat and latent heat. Sensible heat is the type of heat that you're probably used to. It's 90 degrees outside today. It's 70 degrees outside today. We can measure it with a thermometer. Latent heat is heat that we cannot measure. It's actually humidity in the air. And of course, depending on your location, you may have a lot or a little. Now, if you're out west in a dry climate, you may not have to worry about this as much. But here at HVACdirect.com, we're in Ohio, and I can tell you it gets a little bit too humid in the summertime. So for us, if we leave our thermostats off during the day, that humidity will climb up. And when you turn the system back on, it almost has to remove the humidity first before it can start lowering the temperature, which is going to reduce your efficiency. So for those reasons, I personally always used to recommend to my customers, pick a temperature you're comfortable with and just leave it there, even if you're gone for the day. At the most, if you're going to turn your thermostat up, do it by 1 or 2 degrees. So that way when you come home, you have these mini changes, not these huge temperature swings, which is going to be harder on your system. So to recap, if we're talking about saving money with your air conditioning system, so far we've covered insulating your home. We've talked about SEER rating, we've talked about staging, and we've talked about the best way to run your thermostat. The last thing I do want to cover that can help you save money is keeping your system clean. A dirty system will cost more to run. The dirtier the system is, especially the outdoor system, what we call the condenser, it'll raise something called the head pressure or the high side pressure. And when we raise that pressure, we also raise what's called the compression ratio, which is just a fancy way of saying is what's the pressure difference between the inside and the outside. But the higher that ratio gets, the less efficient our system is. And of course, if the system is dirty, the pressure is going to go up. It's just like if you were to put on a winter coat in the summertime and go for a run, you're going to get hotter quicker. And pressure and temperature correlate, meaning if one goes up, so does the other. So if we raise the temperature of the outdoor unit, the pressure is going to go up with it. That means it's very important for you as a homeowner to keep your system cleaned. A very easy way to do this is to just clean it once a year. That's all I got for you on a few tips on how to save money with your air conditioning system. Of course, if you have any questions or maybe some suggestions that we didn't cover in this video, please leave a comment. Please let us know. We'd be more than happy to cover that for you.